Hello everyone, welcome to the Prepping Pug Podcast, our pug-sized podcast about prepping. Today I wanted to talk about the government's war on cash. So since the rise of Bitcoin and that Ponzi scheme, the idea of a cashless society has been gaining momentum. And while the argument could be made that the idea really started with credit and debit cards, it wasn't until the events of this year that caused the Federal Reserve to really show its hand. So what did we see this year? We saw a mixture of propagated fear mixed with an artificial supply shortage, and that resulted in an added inconvenience of using cash. So let's dive into that a little bit. First, we were given research findings that COVID lived on the surface of different materials, and like all the other research, that data seemed to change week to week. So this led to a fear of handling money, both on receiving money and paying with cash. And you'd even notice people using hand sanitizer at checkouts after using their debit cards. Then we got news that the US mints were closed due to the coronavirus, and when they did reopen, production was reduced due to staff adhering to social distancing guidelines. Even ignoring the fact that minting coins is 90% automated, we have 40 years worth of coins in circulation, and had the banks rolled their own coins they received in deposits and not just shipped them off, relying solely on coins from the mint, there would have never been any coin shortage. Here in my small town where I work, we never once had an issue getting coins for our change orders, yet the bigger stores required exact change or rounded your total. So this really conditioned people to not use cash and view it as both not safe and inconvenient, all for the greater good. Now you could say, hey, I haven't used cash in years, I have a debit card, it's no big deal. And my reply would be yes, but you did retain some financial freedom in using a bank card. What happens if there's no bank? Recently, the Fed has admitted that they are working with MIT to develop a digital currency using the blockchain technology. Now I won't go into the collapse of the dollar right now. I'll probably do a whole podcast on the Fed's inflation policy and China dumping US Treasury bonds. But either way, the US dollar is in trouble, and whether it collapses or is replaced, we will see the rise of a new currency in the United States. The new digital dollar, or FedCoin, that they're working on with MIT will be a complete attack on Americans' privacy, freedom, and wealth. So what happens with the FedCoin? Well, first, there will no longer be a need for a local bank. The ledger, savings, and lending can all be done and performed by the central bank, and in our case, that's the Federal Reserve. A digital dollar gives the government complete control over the entire monetary system. You lose any sense of privacy because every transaction can be tracked. It also means that every transaction you do will require the approval of the US government. If they think you've bought enough ammo for this year, they can simply block any further transactions. If they don't like a business or a whole industry, they can simply wipe that company's ability to receive any payments. Take it one step further, and let's assume the government gains control of something like healthcare, and then they can control what food you buy, how often you go out to a restaurant. It's a complete control. Now the IRS would love this. Say your buddy wants to pay you $20 to help with a project or moving. Well, now the IRS can just instantly take their slice of the pie. Want to pay the neighbor kid to mow your lawn? Instant tax. Want to do a garage sale? Tip a delivery driver? Anything, the IRS will simply collect their income tax instantly and with no prejudice. So in one move, they have complete control over what you buy, track everything you buy, and an instant tax system which would just make it so easy and convenient to raise or add any tax they want. And while this isn't different than the dollar, this also allows them to control the money supply. Just like printing dollar bills, they can tax us through inflation, reduce the buying power of our new digital dollar or FedCoin. On top of that, it makes negative interest rates a real threat. If the economy isn't performing as they want, which only happens when people aren't spending or borrowing money, or they think that you are saving too much money, they can simply charge you a negative interest rate to hold your digital money in an attempt to get you to spend whatever you thought you were saving. Well, first I'd say it's time to buy all the things. All the basics that are hammered out in every prepper video or website. Your guns, ammo, food, medical supplies. Basically anything you wouldn't want the government to ban or regulate. Now, I do see people circumventing this system. I think that bartering would become a main alternative to this monetary system, both due to the control, tax, and track aspects, but also due to the inflation and diminishing buying power of another fiat currency. So I would highly recommend buying your bartering items, which I did do a video on recently, but more importantly, I would invest in an alternative money. I personally wouldn't touch Bitcoin or another cryptocurrency, but something like fractional silver that gives you a prep in your transactionability. Now, if you're following the current economic crisis, you can see how the fall of the US dollar has been accelerated. Again, I'll probably do a whole video on this, but seeing the Fed policy, China reducing its treasury bond holdings, as well as China working on an alternative currency system, we really risk the US dollar losing its global reserve status, which makes sense that the United States would want to transition into a new currency before the American people, or world for that matter, lose faith and turn to an alternate. That kind of goes into a new world currency and things like the Great Reset, but these are all topics for another time. I'll end this by saying I think as preppers, this is something not to just pay attention to, but urgently prepare for. A cashless society is nothing more than an opportunity for a complete control police state where tracking and taxing the people is an added benefit to the freedoms they can take from us. If you like this podcast, please take a moment to like and subscribe. It would greatly help our channel. If you'd like to support us, check out thepreppingpug.com, and thanks everyone. Have a great week.